Welcome to the Running Education series. This is Dr. Ben Mueller here, and I'm excited about today's topic, which is running injuries. This is going to be somewhat of a review of many of my previous seminars because we've touched on a lot of this material that I'm going to cover today. But I encourage you to go back and watch those if you have not and get a little education in you. Running injuries, let's jump right into it. This is a statistic. 50% of regular runners get hurt each year. Wow, that's a lot. And the one thing we have to remember with running injuries is about 90 to 95% of those injuries are going to be overuse injuries, right? That's much different than an injury in a basketball game or a soccer game or a football game where it's usually something happens suddenly and there's an injury. Running is usually almost always because of an overuse. Not always, right? There's still going to be those acute injuries in running as well, but most of them are overuse injuries. And the good news is that if we monitor the training load and we recover, we can greatly reduce our chances of getting injured. When you compare males to females, female runners get hurt more than males. And the simple correlation is that the more miles a person runs, the higher risk of injury for the most part, right? That doesn't mean it always works that way, right? But typically speaking, the more miles a person runs, the higher the risk of injury. We'll get into that a little bit. So let's jump into some of the things that we see from the TikTok, Instagram influencers, or even some of the professional athletes when they post their pictures on Instagram of them doing this stuff. Let's get into that. So this stuff is not research based. This stuff does not work in terms of research. There's no research to support this. Epsom salt baths, turmeric supplements, ibuprofen, which is not a good thing. We'll get into that. Ice baths, hydro massage boots, excessive foam rolling, and strength training if it's not prescribed by a physical therapist and it's not working on a muscle imbalance of some sort, does not work as well in terms of injury prevention, at least not research based. All right, so those are a lot of the things that we see. And those, there's no research that supports that any of those reduces risk of injury, at least not in the long term. Ibuprofen use, not a good idea. When a person regularly consumes ibuprofen, their risk of injury goes up by about 3 times. Anytime an athlete uses ibuprofen, it puts them at an increased risk of injury because then they might push it beyond what they should be doing, and then they can get injury from that. It also is not good for stomach if you take too much of ibuprofen either. Let me just make sure I'm connected here because sometimes I lose connection. I think we're good. Yep, we are good. So one of the things that we want to talk about when we talk about reducing your risk of getting injured from running is slow progression. When you run and you get more fit, there's physiological adaptations that are happening. And those changes happen at the cellular level very, very slowly. It takes a lot of time to improve, especially when you get super, super fit. Then it's even harder to improve. So the goal of every runner and every coach should be to find the least amount of stress that gets you the largest rate of return, right? If you can run, for example, I'm just going to make up an example. Let's say you can get a runner to run a 5-minute mile running 40 miles a week. Why would you want to run 60 miles a week if they're still going to be at 5 minutes? You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't want to do it. So the goal is to get them to reach their maximum potential using the least amount of training volume as possible. And there's a lot of variables that come into play. So one of the things that we want to do is when we change the volume or the amount of miles that the runner is running, we want to keep the volume the same for several weeks, give their body time to adapt to it and get used to it, and then maybe tweak it a little bit, either run more or run faster or do faster workouts. But you can see the last point there, never increase both intensity and volume the same week. Okay, that's a bad idea and will increase the risk of injury. So you don't want to go from 20 miles to 25 miles to 30 miles. Sometimes you'll hear about what's called the 10% rule, which I think is kind of silly, where you can increase mileage by 10% each week. You want to keep mileage fairly consistent for several weeks in a row, like 3, 4, even 5 weeks before changing, because again, you want the body to be given time to adapt to that change. You can't just change every single week. And you don't necessarily want to be increasing mileage every 5 weeks either. There's a point to that, and we'll get into that a little bit as well. The next big point is take easy weeks. So if you're increasing the volume for 4 to 5 weeks, you want to take a week maybe where you reduce mileage. And you want to do this every few weeks where you reduce the volume by 25 to 50% for just 1 week, right? So let's say you run 3 weeks in a row at 30 miles per week, okay? You might want to take a week and cut it to maybe 15 to 20 miles. Give the body a little time to recover, to repair itself, and then you can gradually start increasing again after that. But every couple of weeks, you're going to want to take these weeks where you reduce the volume and let the body repair and recover. Another big point that we talked about in my easy running seminar was keep easy running easy, okay? Stress, recover, adapt. You want to challenge your body, give your body time to recover, and then your body adapts to a new level of fitness. But one of the common mistakes that a lot of runners do is they make their easy runs too hard, and then your body doesn't get the recovery that it really should have had. One of the key principles that Dr. Jason Karp talks about all the time in his books is always run workouts at the slowest possible pace to achieve the purpose of the workout. That's kind of the goal with this. There's no reason to run at a faster pace than the slowest possible pace that you can run to make sure the purpose of the workout was achieved. That's how runners get injured, is when they're racing all the time, or they're always looking at their time, looking at their watch, trying to run faster. All the time for easy runs, not a good idea, and almost always leads to injury. Just want to check once again to make sure I'm still connected here. Looks like I am. Good deal. So make sure to keep the easy runs easy. Did I skip one there? Nope, we're good. Next one is train your strength. And that's one of the key things is when you talk about the different types of workouts that you can do, from intervals to hills to speed intervals to tempo runs to long runs to fartlek workouts, there's just millions of different workouts that you can do. And it can be overwhelming to coaches and runners when they see all this material and they try to decide the best program for their individual runners. Always train based on your strength. So know what your strengths are and train based on that. A lot of runners can run really well by doing a lot of long, slow running, where a lot of other runners can run really well by doing shorter runs at a faster pace or doing more intervals. You don't necessarily have to do every type of workout, and never do somebody else's workout just for the sake of doing it. In other words, if you're in a specific training plan, you don't want to do somebody else's workout just so that you can do it or to see if you can do it. That's a bad idea if it's not part of your training plan. And that's one of the things where there's pros and cons to training with a group, right? There's advantages to that, and that you can be pushed a little bit. You can have people to talk to and all that, but sometimes you can do somebody else's workout that you're not really ready for, and that can lead to injuries as well. So you want to be very careful with that. So train your strength as an individual runner. Know what your strengths are. This is a big one. Adjust and reflect. Adjust workouts for your current status. And that's going to happen where you might feel a little too tired, or 1 week just might not be your week, or you're not hitting those times you were supposed to hit. And that's okay to adjust and reflect and to change workouts based on how you're feeling, either that day or that week or coming up. Maybe you just got over an illness, right? You're not going to be able to run at the level you did, before you got sick, and that's okay. So always be adjusting and reflecting how you feel physically and mentally, and adjust your workouts to your current status. Take recovery seriously. The best ways to recover: time, sleep, and nutrition. Okay? You actually get stronger and repair during the recovery process. So on your recovery days, take it easy. Don't do any running. Just take it easy. Maybe a light walk or something like that, but give your body time to recover, and that will do you wonders as well. Other things: making sure you're wearing the correct shoes for your foot type, maybe seeing a professional or going to a running shoe store to get your stride evaluated. Make sure to do a good dynamic warm-up to get your muscles ready to go and everything. Strengthening your calves is a big one as well. And that's where you can do a variety of things: calf raises before running, simple things to make your calves stronger. And then balance your strength imbalances. So if you notice that you have a muscle imbalance, you might want to go see a physical therapist and get their advice on different strength training things you can do to strengthen the imbalances that you have. And I believe that's it. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day.